All right, we are here doing the CADS 1 ASD, CI, all things VASS and CADS overview so that everybody can get a sense of what's going on. As I mentioned, we are on Zoom tonight. If you do have questions, please just click off your microphone, ask away. There's no silly questions. Chances are, if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it as well. And I love great conversation. Also, if you want to use your chat, you can also fire any questions in there. And let's just get into it. So if you're not familiar with CADS, Canadian Adaptive Snow Sports, they are our national organization that develops all of the training, as well as takes care of all the insurance and management of our profiles and all those types of things that are way bigger than what most clubs can manage. So we're very fortunate to have them in Canada so they can help facilitate clubs like VASS. Topics we're going to cover in this session tonight, we're going to look at introduction to CADS, some safety stuff, what the evaluation is, and then we'll do a little bit of ski, and usually it says snowboard review, but tonight we're just all skiers. Although I speak both languages, so if anybody wants to commute in another language, we can totally do that. When I look at how the hierarchy of all things work, CADS is our national organization, which we talked about just briefly. Then we have BCAS, or BC Adaptive Snow Sports. Vancouver makes up the biggest portion of all adaptive clubs in Canada. We are about 80% of all of the clubs in our province. So there is actually an amazing group of people that work to help support us all in an office down in South Vancouver. And Will Davies is the executive director, who it's just a force gentleman that used to run comedy shows and promotions and all things like that, and then got into politics and just has a love for sport and is amazing at organizing big organizations. And then at his side is an amazing woman named Corinne that some of you have had a chance to work with this weekend. She is a new level 4 CADS course conductor, which doesn't mean much to you now, but I will show you the chart later and it'll make sense. Basically, she's at the top of the food chain as far as people that can come and train. And we're lucky that she lives in Vancouver and we have access to her, even though she spends a lot of her time traveling around BC and helping out smaller clubs. And then we have our local program, which is VASS, which is what you've all signed up to be a part of. And that is our Vancouver organization that helps all 3 of our local mountains, so Seymour, Cypress, and Grouse, deliver all the adaptive lessons at the moment, whether that's our specific programming or helping out school programs that come up, or just one-off people that are on vacation and need a hand, whatever that is, we are there to support that. So that's the part that we are proud of. And then BC is our provincial company and CADS is our national organization. Let's ask some questions, and maybe we'll ask some questions, and if you don't mind firing stuff into the chat, and then I will just read it out. That way it keeps it pretty simple. So this first question just talks about, who do you think the students are that are going to come to our programming, that are going to come to VASS? Put in anything you like. We'll just take a look. I will encourage you now just to go for everything this weekend. I may not have mentioned, but the evaluation has actually already begun. It is a continuous evaluation, and you have tons of opportunity to impress us to make it all happen. And I love when people just go for it, even if they're not sure if it's 100% right, because either you're going to be right or you're going to learn something, and both are super valuable. And please just know that all the people that you're going to be working with this weekend, as far as the course conductors, are really just here to help make everything possible for all of you. It is our expectation that most of you are going to pass, because we will work very hard to do that and set you up for success wherever we can. And if you're not achieving in somewhere, then we'll just pull you aside and say, hey, listen, we need to work on this little part. What can we do in the next couple hours to have this happen? Or what can I help you with tonight, or whatever? Because we are very committed to helping people get through. I see lots of things coming up. Somebody says individuals with autism. Yeah, so you'll hear the word autism or autism spectrum disorder, also referred to as ASD. People that are excited to learn. Yes, everybody. I think everybody would like to come with us. I don't know if we support everybody. Typically, we only support students that identify as having a disability of some type. To give you an idea, in Canada, 1 out of 12 people now identify as having some type of a disability. So yeah, when you say everybody, I'll give you an inch, but we don't take people that could easily function and behave in a typical snow school class. We would much rather have the mountains take care of that for us, and we'll just help them with people that feel like they want to be with us. Skiers with anxiety, 100%. People who learn differently, yeah. People that live with disability, yeah. People that can't ski without assistance, for sure. People of any age and any disability, that's a good one. Yeah, we do not care about age. There are some programs across Canada. I should say there's one other big program in Canada, and they support only child development. So I'm really proud to be part of CADS, where we don't look at that as a barrier. People can come to us at any time. People of most all age who have a disability of some sort and want to ski. Yes. Someone here said people with injuries. That's a great one for sure. Yeah. Anybody that is something has changed in their life? Yes. All levels of skiers, absolutely. People with mental and physical disabilities, perfect. What else on here? Autism, people with amputations. The word cerebral palsy came up. Who said that? Does anybody know what cerebral palsy is or can describe it? April, did you have your hand up? Let's see the quick flash and then go back down. What is CP or cerebral palsy? If you're trying to talk to us, you're still on mute, just so you know.
So I worked with someone, sorry, this is Yvette.
Oh, hey,
I worked with someone in Calgary who had cerebral palsy. She was an amazing skier.
Yep.
And she had muscular difficulties with balance, communication, but she really did adapt very well. She skied with on a walker. And then over the season, as she got stronger, she graduated to her skis with her poles with skis on them, and then we would help her out. But yeah.
Awesome.
So,
April, you had something to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I did VASS many years ago, but the child that I was working with had cerebral palsy, and we used one of a bar, and there was 2 volunteers helping on either side, and he had a lot of spasticity, so holding onto the bar helped him to be able to balance and ski down the hill.
Nice. I will say that every person that I meet, I just try and have them just be a unique person. And whatever their diagnosis is going to be part of the story. But there are so many diagnoses that are so complex and have so many different variations of them. And CP is definitely one of those. I've seen ranges of CP where, somebody might have a bit of a little gated walk to somebody who, cannot speak at all, although is fully cognitive. But their body just hasn't developed any ability to speak yet. They can barely swallow. And they're amazing skiers with the ways that we find to help them. So yeah, I just try and I will tell you, I am not an expert at diagnosis. Oh my gosh. Every time I see something I don't know, I use this really fancy device that lives in my pocket. It looks like this thing. I don't know if you guys have any of these in your life. And then I just Google it. And I try and learn a little bit about what in the heck it is. And then I meet the person. And we're going to go through a process that we're going to teach you in a little bit here that helps fill in a lot of that gap, thinking about both their physical and cognitive abilities and how we can maximize the ability for everybody. Awesome. And then just seeing if there's anything else that popped up here. Congenital cognitive disabilities. Cool. Yep. People without sufficient movement. Awesome. All great answers. So you're right. This is a big, wide category of all the people that come to us. But generally, they need to identify as having some sort of diagnosis. And to that, we don't ask. If they think they should be in, they're in. 100%. If they come for a few lessons and we assess that, they could probably function pretty well in ski school, then we will recommend that they just move over to ski school and go and enjoy the classes there. So let's talk about the next one. And again, if you just want to type in some answers, why do you think that people with that associate as having a disability want to learn how to ski or snowboard? Fire it in the chat, whatever you got. Why not? That's a good answer. Sophie says it's fun. Ben says skiing is fun. Megan thinks to have fun. I like this. Matilda, it's open to everyone. Yep. James is saying, one of the James is saying, learn new skills. Christians did it prior to an injury. Yeah, that's a great one. So maybe, yeah, maybe someone has some new conditions in their life and that's something they used to do. Get some fresh air in the winter. Love that. Thank you, Charlotte. Jaron, it's fun for everybody. Yeah. April, joy, ability to do an activity that is modified so they can do it. Absolutely. Richard, I'm not sure what it says. It says TI live a full life. Oh, to live a full life. There we go. Yeah. Cool. Imka, exercise. That's a good one. It is totally exercise. It's a sport. You can be active. New experiences. Lucy says social conditioning. So Lucy, what do you mean? That's a good one.
I said social connections.
Even better. Let's go with that. I just read the words I want to because it makes the conversation more entertaining. Thank you for helping me read. So yeah, it's social. Absolutely. New experiences. Yeah. I mean, these are all wonderful answers. Are any of these answers any different than why we personally ski or snowboard? Not at all. It's exactly the same reasons. It's a great way to get outside, play. I always think too, if you live in British Columbia, you should take advantage of all the stuff you can do in British Columbia, and being on the mountains is absolutely one of them. I believe that the snow is an incredibly good equalizer for a lot of people, because if I can teach people how to somehow turn right and left and slow down against the snow, then everybody can get out there and do it, regardless of what their abilities might be when they're trying to walk or roll or whatever it is in the world. So you can go fast, have fun, enjoy it. Awesome. I am going to give this little clip. I find the best way to do this, I've tried having videos play through the presentation and it often doesn't work very well. So what I'd like to do is put this clip into your chat. And so if everybody can get their chat open, and then what we'll do is you can watch it. It's about 3 minutes and 40 seconds long. And then we'll come back in about 4 minutes and we'll just have a little chat about it. So here comes the link. And I will turn off my speaker so that you guys don't get feedback. And we'll see you in about 4 minutes. All right. I think probably most people are back. We'll give it another few seconds. Cool. Anybody like that video? Didn't like that video? Don't know? Not sure? Welcome to take off your microphone and just speak your mind.
I thought it was great. Thanks for sharing that, things.
Cool. Kristen's giving it a thumbs up. Anybody else have any thoughts or any good stories in their life or things that you've done in the past that were along the awkward side, or things that you do in your present now that you wish more people would adopt?
I've definitely grabbed some, like, open the door for somebody if I see them just without asking, for sure.
I don't mind people asking me questions, but sometimes people ask me things that are kind of inappropriate.
Do you wash yourselves?
Can you drink? Do you have sex? Oh, do you go out? No, I just sit at home and cry about my disability every night.
I'm
my friends
so confused what I'm listening to right now.
Don't assume that you know what I'm going through. Every case is different. Oh, Kevin, do you know him? Oh yeah, we've got our own secret club.
That isn't me, is it? No, okay. Someone has their microphone on. Oh, maybe it's stopped now. That was really funny. No.
Yeah. It's a shame now.
What is?
It's disabled.
That's okay. I'm just gonna mute a couple people and see if I get it. Okay. Oh no.
I think it's Richard.
There we go. All right, that was fun. I will happily tell you stories about my life because hey, I can say before I got involved with working with athletics with people with disabilities, I would just go out of my way to avoid everybody because I didn't want to offend anybody. Because I just didn't know what to do or how to say anything. So I used to just literally walk around people and try not to make an impact. And I think my life is very different and richer now. And I will, actively engage everybody on the entire planet, regardless of what's going on. And I also, for some reason, really like talking to kids that I can tell are often on the spectrum. Because I think they get ignored because of maybe some of their habits or behaviors or whatever in public. And it's just so nice just to say hi and just have them say hi back. And they just give you that look like, hey, that person actually sees me. So I look forward to how working with VASS might change the way that you see some things in the world. Let's keep rolling. Let's look at the pathway really quickly for all things that make up the CADS certification. So you've all signed up to do a full level 1 this weekend, which is this yellow part at the bottom. We are going to work through 4 different modules. So you're going to get a chance to play with outriggers, which are those long poles with little skis on the bottom, both using 2 skis and sometimes only using 1 ski and skiing on 1 foot. We're going to work through a visual impairment model to help you understand how to support people with visual impairment, as well as coach people that can't see. Then you're going to get to sit ski. So everybody's going to have the opportunity to be in a sit ski this weekend if they wish to be, which will be really fun. And then you'll learn how to support a sit skier. And then we're going to do a module on how to work with students with autism spectrum disorder and other cognitive impairment. So that's going to make up what happens over the weekend. And we'll talk a little bit more about the timeframes and things as we get towards the end of the presentation. But if you enjoy what you're doing this weekend, then moving forward, you have the opportunity to go and do your level 2, which is exactly the same as level 1, but just further down the progression line. We're just teaching students at a higher level now. And then again, you can go from there into level 3, which is now teaching some of the more advanced lessons around the mountain, probably using more black diamonds and that type of terrain, getting into moguls, maybe a race pathway. And then after you do your level 3, you're in a position then to become a course conductor. and you can then conduct courses for level 1 and 2. And if you're loving all of that and you think it's just the best life ever, then there's a small percentage of us that go and do their level 4s. I mentioned that we'll have access to Corinne this weekend, which is amazing. I'm one of the other level 4s in Canada. So it's a lot of fun that we can do all of our certifications at a very high level in-house for VASS. But there's only 4 level 4s, there's 9 level 4s in all of Canada at the moment. So there's lots of opportunity. If this is something that you like, this is actually something that can become a career for you. Once you get up to that level 4 sort of status, the average sort of level 4 instructor at a place like Whistler Blackcomb is probably making about $35 an hour to teach skiing. So it's not a bad gig. I did it for a number of years and waited tables in the evening and skied all day, and it was a wonderful life for a number of years. So those are the pathways. If you're interested in them, let me know, but you'll see opportunities for training and things as the season goes on, and you're welcome just to come to the training and see what you like. For this weekend's evaluation, we will be, I'll show you the grid in a second, but there's a few components that you have to achieve 100% on. And then there's a component that you have to have 60% on. So there's a lot of room for not being perfect, and that's okay. Safety stuff, we absolutely have to be 100%. There's not much of it. I'll show you exactly what it is and show you how to get through it. Then the teaching aids and teaching techniques section, we need to get 100% on. But this other stuff, the ability to assess somebody using different tethering techniques, using the lift procedure, which seems weird. I don't know, that feels to me like it should be 100%, but I didn't make up the rules. There's a little bit of wiggle room. And in every category, as we kind of look at what this really looks like, there's just a big grid with a description of what's going on, and then all 4 of our disciplines that we talked about. And you either need to get an ME, which means meets expectation, or you'll get an NI, which means needs improvement. And then based on what that is, like I mentioned, all the course conductors are very, very committed to try and get everybody through this weekend. So we'll usually go through this tomorrow night and fill up as much as we can and see if there's anything that we're recognizing as a trend, and then just give you some extra coaching. But most of you will end up with a lot of MI or MEs all the way across this board. Once that's all completed after the weekend, then it gets submitted into your profile. So the profiles that you've already all made through Snowline, and it lives there. So you can see it anytime, go back and look at it, and your credentials will live there as well, so that we can see them nationally. So regardless, if you move to another club at some point, your credentials will follow you, which is quite nice. Some of the safety stuff. So there's a little safety part at the bottom here saying that you must know all parts of the Alpine Responsibility Code. You must know what duty of care is, and you must know the critical points of AOT. And you don't even know what AOT is. Does anybody actually know what AOT is? If you've got into the manual at all, has anybody opened the manual? All right, let's just for fun. No shame here. If you have opened the manual, throw up a hand on the reaction. We got a couple. I like it. All right. If you haven't, there's still opportunity for sure. It was sent in the link when you signed up. It would have been sent in the links that I sent out the other day. And if you still can't find it, you can always go to CADS, CADS.ski, SKI, and all the resources live there as well. It's a short manual. You'll crank through it in a couple of days. It's only 200 pages. My encouragement, if you haven't looked at it, to get into it a little bit tonight, jump into any section and look at something called AOT. And we'll get into that very quickly here, and you'll understand why. But that's kind of the grid. There's nothing super complex or magic about it. It's just us trying to make sure that you get a good basis of all the knowledge that we're going to be working with. But open doesn't mean red. Yes, but open doesn't mean red. Yes, and you are correct, Anna. Open doesn't mean red. I have several books on my shelf that have been opened. But it is a great resource, and it will live for you there. So anytime you have questions, you can always resort back. I believe that most of you probably attended a Zoom session with me earlier this week and or have been on snow and probably seen this next part, at least at some point, what the CADS 6 steps are. So you might have talked about the CSIA progression, and what you'll notice in our CADS progression is that there's one step more, and we start it with equipment. So that is always our first step in any lesson, is to make sure that our students just understand exactly the equipment that they're using. Some of the equipment is pretty complex. You will have a chance to see a machine this weekend that somebody can actually sit in and ski with their mouth with a sip and puff technology. So it goes to that level of complexity all the way down to maybe just a cone or a pole or something that they're going to hang on to. So it is very vast. People with their hands up, are there questions, or you just still have the hands up from when I asked about the manual? Cool, good. Well, Anna's holding out.
I
Love
have
it.
a question if it's
Yeah.
okay to ask now. How does the CADS course level 1, like how does it compare to the CSIA? And if I'm interested in getting the level 1 there, it's not equivalent to it, right?
It is not. It is a
Okay.
little bit lower. I would say it's like 65% of the CSIA one. And
Okay.
it's a good question. The reason that we've kind of put it or stopped it there and not taken it as far as CSI does is because we have to go through 4 different modules where the CSI is just playing and skiing the whole time. So to keep the bandwidth or the time that the course is going to run, we had to make a decision to have a little bit less of the teaching side of it. So,
Okay.
yep, it's a great question. CSIA 1 is a great thing to go along with your CADS for sure. And I would say by the time you've done CADS 2, you then have more than CSIA 1. You probably have like 1.5 times what CSIA is. So for the level 1, once you get the 2 CADS. So good question. So as I mentioned, equipment is the first thing. Then we have our basic mobility, which is all that moving around flat ground, taking on and off your skis, sidestepping up little hills, getting like little push kind of glides, skating, herringbone, all those things are basic mobility. Then we have gliding to a stop, which is where, as an instructor, you just have to pick the right bit of terrain where someone can safely glide maybe 20 feet and come naturally to a stop without having to do anything. And then we teach a turn, how to turn to the right, how to turn to the left. And that's actually where your certification ends for every module. You just have to teach people how to turn one direction. I will believe that most of your course conductors will keep teaching you a little bit beyond that, because most of your students are going to end up linking turns, but the part that you're actually evaluated on is only up to a single turn. When we get into CADS 2, then we look at officially how to link turns and all the different strategies and how to then take that everywhere else on the map. So I mentioned this thing, this AOT has kind of come up a couple times. Does anybody that opened their manual already, or maybe even read a few pages, know what AOT stands for? You can just take off your microphone and yell it.
Ask, observe, and test.
Nice. I love it. Does anybody know how we use this ask, observe, and test? Oh, it got much quieter. I like it. So
asking starts with greeting your potential student, finding something about them, getting a little bit of rapport, but find out, have they even had ski boots on before? Have they walked in them? Asking is asking questions. Observing is seeing how they do those things.
Cool. And then what is testing?
Well, the testing is then testing whether or not after an explanation they can actually do them. So they ask, we observe, and then we test whether or not we've been successful by seeing what they do. So that once it then actually I got that mixed up, don't I? I don't quite have that clean.
You're fine. You're fine. I like where you're at.
Show me what they've observed.
You're at a good spot. So I always, I mean, ask is really simple. You can ask people a lot of questions. I'm always shocked how much I can just watch people and see. Like if I'm just watching my student walk up to me, most of you will, if you're going to be at grouse, like your students usually have to walk down a few stairs just to get to where you're probably meeting them. Just watching people walk down stairs is good observation. You can learn a lot about their bodies and how they're working. And then tests can be anything that help me understand more about the way that they move or that they might learn or behave in different environments. One of my favorite tests in the world is a game called Simon Says. Anybody ever played Simon Says? It's really simple. It's a game where you say, cool, every time I said Simon Says, then I'm going to say a motion or an action or get you to do something. And then if I don't say the word Simon Says, but just say the action and you do it, then you're out. Are we ready? I think we should try this. Everybody should stand up. Even if you're not have your camera on, it's fine. I will trust that you're all good judges. So we understand. So if I say Simon Says, then you do the action. If I don't say Simon Says and just say the action, then don't do anything. And if you mess it up, then you're out. You can have a sit down. Are we ready? All right, here we go. Clap your hands 3 times. Oh, some of you got very close there. Simon Says, clap your hands 3 times. Simon Says, jump up and land on your feet. Simon Says, reach down and touch your toes. Nice. Touch your nose. Oh. Simon Says, jump to your right and land on your right foot. Simon Says, jump to your left foot. To your right foot. Oh! All right, we're gonna have a seat. So through just playing this simple game, you know, that seems funnish, I've already determined that you can jump up and down and bend all of your ankles, knees, and hip because you landed. So I then am observing as we're playing this game to see what ski movements you might have. As we're jumping side to side, believe it or not, you're actually going to be edging when you jump from side to side. You'll actually have to get on the edge of your foot and launch off. So I'm checking to see if you know how to edge. And just through playing these kind of games, you can do a lot of things that are much more fun than, cool, can I see you bend all your ankle, knee, and hip? Well, good. Can you touch the ground? That's wonderful. Can you roll on your... There's much more fun to play things. It's a very fancy word called gamification. You can do it to lots of things. Tag is also another great one to test people's abilities. Couple to give you away. Anyways, we will play a lot with AOT. In fact, every single module that we go through, we will play with it a lot. It is one of the foundations of CADS so that we can get to know as much about our students and how to benefit the way that they're going to learn on the mountain. One of the other things that you'll have access to is that all of our students in VASS have gone through the snow line similar to what you have, although they have some different pages. So they have pages about medical information where they will put anything that they believe they're diagnosed as well as any special characteristics that are along with that, including ways that they like to learn, any ways, behavior challenges or learning challenges, or strategies that the parents are already aware of, so that we can hopefully get a bit of a jump start on it. Once you get assigned to a student, you will have access to their profile. You don't have access until then, so that we can keep all this information as safe as possible. But we do have, it's coming up too, a code of ethics, which allows us to share all of these files, knowing that we're going to hold all of that information in the highest regard. So look forward to learning more about that. You will learn about that in your program orientation. They'll go through it on the computer and show you exactly how to get into the profiles. We are going to watch a quick little video because this is one of those safety things that we talked about, where if you know all 10 of these things that are in the Alpine Responsibility Code, you can score 100% on part of your safety. It is a little video. I think it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. Again, I'm going to throw it in the chat. If you don't mind turning off your microphones if they're on and watch this, and I will see you back here in 3 minutes and we'll talk about all things Alpine Responsibility Code. We'll see you in a minute.
I think you're still on mute, James.
Thank you. Everybody's back now. April, were you able to get the link? She's looking for the mute button. I love it. I think we're all back. Everybody's good? Perfect. So here's the big fancy card. I would encourage you to take a photo of this on your phone if you don't have it already, just because this is something that you will probably get asked several times over the weekend. And if you're in my group and you want to pull out your phone to find the answer, I have no problem with that as long as you can find the answer. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's move on. So duty of care. Does anybody know what duty of care is or have a good definition for duty of care? You're welcome to either type it in, or if you just want to take off your microphone and talk, I'm totally into either one.
It is a liability to other people.
It is a liability to other people, absolutely.
If we have close relationship enough with them.
Yep. Anybody else have anything else to add to it?
I think once you're an instructor and you have a student with you, then you're basically liable for their safety and making sure that they're well taken care of until the lesson ends.
Perfect. Anybody else have anything else to add?
There is a foreseeability involved, I guess, too.
There is what? Sorry, there is
Foreseeability. I mean, in the relationship towards the other.
What do you mean by foreseeability? Foreseeability.
It's like if one could foresee that we would be in a close relationship with the person that we have the liability towards.
Okay, cool. And the things that I think are the most important about duty of care is that it is a legal term that is used in courts, for sure. And when we take on the responsibility of delivering a lesson to one of our students, and we take that person away from their parent or caregiver, whoever has the duty of care currently, we absorb it. And it is our job to act as a prudent parent would in all situations throughout the course of the lesson, which means, yes, providing a safe lesson, but also being mindful that, you know, they might need to use the washroom, or they might be thirsty, or they might be getting cold. All those things that are about being human also fall upon us during a lesson. So acting as a prudent parent is the big part of it. When you read all of your manuals, as I'm sure you're going to when you're trying to fall asleep tonight, page 174 has all the official legal sense of it. And or you can go to cads.ski, education, more resources, and instructor, and there's everything there for you. Cool. You will be asked about duty of care this weekend, I promise. So have a pretty good answer. Let us whip through this. I don't know if you are aware, but you all signed a code of conduct, which I'm sure you read every single word of because it looks like a big, serious document when you were signing up to be part of VASS and part of CADS. So I always like just to go through it and let you know exactly what you've agreed to, just so there's no confusion. Seek and do no harm safely. Safety is always our priority. Number 2, respect the strengths and diversity of all participants. Number 3, demonstrate respect and inclusion to all individuals, not just the students, but all of our fellow instructors, all the other people that work for the mountain, all the other guests at the mountain. Refrain from harassment, including bullying, hazing, sexual innuendos, such a fun word, humiliating or racist or sexist comments. Refrain from consuming alcohol, marijuana, tobacco products, or banned substances while participating in CADS programs or events. This also extends to your students, that they cannot enjoy any of these things while a lesson is going on. If someone identifies as using marijuana as a form of medication, then we would ask that they medicate before they arrive to us. And we always have the right to defer the lesson based on the fact that we do not believe that they are capable at the time, because that is in the Alpine Responsibility Code. Use social media responsibly. You'll get more into that when you actually go to your orientation session, because we actually have some policies around that for VASS. Number 7, respect the property of others and not willfully cause damage. Respect all the local laws, report any alleged infractions of this code of conduct, respect all participants or participating, respect all participants' information as confidential. I can't even speak today, which is what I was talking about, why we can have access to their medical forms that they've created. As well as you may or may not know, but you have access to all the information about every instructor. If you need to get a hold of another instructor because they're your partner and you can't find their information, it is in Snowline. You can just go to instructors and there's a whole list of all of our instructors. We, because of this code of conduct, feel safe having that there and believe that people only use it for VASS business. Number 3, commit to upholding the risk management standards of your club, host clubs, and snow resorts and governing organizations. So that number 11 talks about whatever the snow school, whatever mountain we are on, we will follow all of the same rules that their ski school will follow. So as an example, all snow schools now in Canada, all instructors have to wear helmets. Thus, all of our instructors have to wear helmets. Hint, if you don't have one, please get one. If you need one for tomorrow, I can help you out. We can lend you one for tomorrow. Let us keep going because we are flying through this. Only a handful more slides before this first deck is done. In the CSIA, we didn't get into this a lot in the presentation I did the other week, but there's something called the decision-making model that talks about the situation that we're going to look at a little bit more. The learning contract, which is actually what we in CADS called our AOT. That AOT process that we talked about encompasses all the things that are in a contract, such as learning about past experiences, current physical and cognitive abilities, future goals. Yeah, I think that's all it's in. And then skiing objectives. So what our student wants to be learning, and then motor skill development and understanding what things we can be doing to help them get towards what we agreed in the learning contract. When we look a little bit more at the situation, which is one of my favorite things because it relates back to our safety, which is such a big focus for us, we can talk about terrain. So I don't know if you're familiar with green, blue, black, double blacks. If you're is anybody from Europe or skied in Europe? There's another color in Europe. Vet, Lenka, what's the other color in Europe?
Blue stands for green here.
Yeah.
And then red stands for blue.
And then red stands for blue, yeah.
Like
Just to make it more confusing. So this is the North American one. We use it to give you an idea, and maybe you've never even thought about this, but they talk about percentage of grade. So all greens have to be less than 25% pitch angle. Although a green that is in Ontario is significantly different than a green that is in British Columbia. There we have much steeper pitches here in BC than they do out east. So our greens are much more like other mountains blues, but this is the guidelines that all mountains are supposed to be monitoring. So greens are under 25%, blues are 25 to 40, black diamonds are 40 plus, and then double blacks are 50% or plus. So anybody ski double black diamonds? Yeah, all right. You're probably on my group tomorrow. We'll go and cause trouble over on the back of the peak chair. If I am aware that the snow is continually changing, always changing. And I hope you all believe that, you know, in a couple of hours, not only the snow that's falling from the sky, but the snow that's under your feet can dramatically change on our local mountains here. What are any safety considerations I would think about with really fresh, soft snow? Either in the text or take off your microphone, I'm open to it all. Everybody's like, well, there's nothing to consider, man. Send it. It's soft snow. Let's go. James, you got your microphone off.
I was going to say obstructions that are underneath.
Yeah,
Well,
sometimes.
I was just going to say obstructions. Yeah. If you don't have
Perfect.
good powder skis, you might sink and then hit them.
Soft snow can hide all sorts of things. All these little bumps and things literally could be, you know, a couple of inches of snow, and they could be rocks or stumps or all sorts of things. So that's perfect. Anything else in soft snow that you need to be worried about?
Lucy put in the chat tree wells.
Tree wells is a wonderful thing. Yeah. So tree wells sadly claim a lot of lives every year, especially up in Whistler Blackcomb. As snow falls on a tree, because of the branches, the snow doesn't fall right at the base of the tree, but then it starts to slowly pile up. And there's actually kind of like a hidden hole that kind of sits there. If you fall into it, often for some reason, it ends up being you head first because you've kind of deflected off one tree and gone towards another one. You often end up upside down, which is really hard to get out. And if you hit the tree hard enough, then all the snow from above will come and bury you. And it is a very, very serious situation. So if you're ever skiing trees, please ski with somebody else, and please have a whistle close to your mouth. So on your upper zipper or somewhere up there, that if you need to blow your whistle so people can find you, that is the good things. Cool. What are some safety concerns with hard snow or icy conditions?
Not very forgiving when you fall.
Can be a little more painful when you fall over, for sure. Yeah. We're not going to want to fall a whole lot. Loose edges and bailing. Oh, losing your edge and bailing. Yeah, Yvette, totally. Yeah, you can, if you're not in a good angulated position so that you have less pressure in your downhill ski and you hit some ice, you can totally slide out. You can slide into other people. You might think that you're in Ontario. Ben's funny. I like that. Yes, it's a time machine. Hard snow is also fast snow. So people will be traveling generally faster. And then when they go to stop, unless they're really skilled, they will be out of control. So there's a lot of collisions that can happen on hard snow. Cool. Let's look at some other weather conditions. So when it's overly sunny, what's something that we should do for a couple things we should do for our clients all the time if it's really sunny? Either in the chat or just speak it out. Sunscreen, yeah. Oh, lots of people, and goggles. There it is. That's a great one. Goggles, sunscreen, and then someone added hydration. All wonderful answers. What about when it gets really cold? And I agree, this is not really cold, all right? Just so we're clear, like I'm talking like minus 20-ish, minus 25. What are some things we should be really worried about?
Frostbite.
Frostbite, yeah. So cover up all your exposed skin. What is a sign of frostbite if you look at someone's nose or their cheek that you might see? Anybody seen that before?
It'll go white.
It'll go white. Like you actually start to see like little white crystals forming. Yeah, and you got to get in super quick. White spots, yeah. I bet had that, absolutely. Red parts also good. So yeah, get people warm. Absolutely, for sure. And don't spend a lot of time outside. Like if it's minus 25, we were skiing at minus 28 in Lake Louise in the beginning of the year. And it was simple. We did 2 runs and then we went and sat inside for 10 minutes and talked about what we just did. And then came back, did 2 more runs and went back inside. What about this one? Not that it's ever foggy where we live, is it? What are any considerations with fog? What should we do for our students? Vertigo. Good answer. I like that.
Ski slower because of visibility.
Slow it right down. I love that. Understand the references of the piece. Understand, Anna, what do you mean by that? Understand the references of the piece.
So for example, in Whistler, if you know that, I think it's the right side that it's red and the left side it's green. So you know when you are out of the piste.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's some runs that are going to have like dots on poles so you can get good reference on where the piste is. Wonderful. This is a great one. Karen, thank you. It says, stay very close together, because if you ski off a few turns and they can't see you, that could be really very frightening for someone. So always stay within eye shot. Absolutely. Losing people, beware their surroundings. Yeah. Give them high visibility vests. Chio coming up with a good answer. Great answer. And we do have high vis vests in the yurt for sure. I think we also have some blinking bike lights that work really well in the fog, and they're just fun. Narrow runs where you can see the trees on the edge. Great solution, Ben. Thank you. There's a run called Paper Cut that if it's daytime is open, it's right next to the cut and it is fully lined with trees. You can just go little section by section and get down nice and safely. Sometimes I wear a light. Yep, that's awesome. Explain the terrain before you ski it. Another good strategy. Absolutely. Tell people what's coming. Have a meeting spot just in case you get separated. I feel like you guys are really good at the safety stuff. I love it. What about this last one? So this one, what do you think it is? Is it windy? Is it cold? Is it, what is it? Let's go with windy. Is there anything we should do if it's windy?
Cornices are no fun.
Cornices are no fun. Has anybody ever skied in a place where it's so windy, the snow is going across your feet and you can't tell if you're moving or not? It's really like, it's a bizarre thing when it happens. Do you have a good strategy?
Yeah.
What's a good strategy?
It's happened to us once in Blackcomb, and I think we just waited it out until we were able to like safely move. But it was very, very windy.
So one of the things I will do, if you're ever stuck in this position, or if you end up, drag your poles, drag the baskets like close to your boots, so you get sensation in your hands if you're moving. You'll be able to feel how fast you're moving. So it's a good way to do it. Also a really good trick for teaching some students that can't see perhaps and can't see where the snow is going or how fast they're going. Awesome. Last couple pictures, and we'll just fire these in the text as fast as we can. What does this first picture mean?
Need help?
Need help? Yeah. Or an accident below? Perfect. Yeah. Nice. Someone's injured. Yeah, absolutely. So when you see that, if you're skiing down, two things. One, I would say make sure that you give it some space and get around it. But then two, if there's not a lot of people there, according to our Alpine Responsibility Code, we would also just check in and just make sure if they need anything else or if they need someone to go for patrol, anything like that. What are some of the concerns with this guy? Got a lot of these on grouse right now. The big snow gun, if you don't know what that is.
Well, it's noisy. Not a good place.
It's noisy. Yep. Yeah. So as an example, if you were guiding somebody who's visually impaired or potentially blind, and you're yelling out commands, right, left, and you go by a snow gun, they may not be able to hear you. So looking at that beforehand and trying to get as far away from that as you can is going to be a good strategy. And or making sure that if they can't hear you, that you just have an agreement to stop. Someone also said the cables and hoses can be hazardous, 100%, especially if we go back to some of that little soft falling snow. Although with a bit of snow, you'll just ski over them. But I would just avoid them altogether if you can. Go to the other side of the run. High pressure air and water, yep. Snow sticks to your goggles, totally it does. Now the biggest problem is that it creates a really nice jump called a whale. And if you've ever jumped whales, that's also fun, but usually try and wait till the snow gun's done. What about this problem? How do we overcome this problem? And if anybody watched the Olympics, this last Winter Olympics, there was the best commercial, and I need to get a clip of it, where there's literally like thousands of people trying to ski at the same time. It's lovely. What can we do with all this? Move to terrace. That is a solution, maybe not in the moment, but it is a solution. What would you do if you come up on a run and it's just so busy? Waiting's not bad. Move somewhere else. Yeah, if you can go to a different one, run. Wait for a break in the traffic. Yeah. Do you think you would ski big fast turns or short little turns? Short. Yeah. Good.
Short, slow speed.
Yeah, so lots of like I would probably try and pick like an edge and literally just try and do like little tiny short slow turns down the side, or even maybe just, hey, let's run a hockey stop drill and let's just stop all the way down, just boom, 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 knowing that from one side we're kind of protected and then we're just kind of trying to defend as much as we can. I put this light picture here too. Is there anything we have to worry about light with some of our students, or what can we do at night to help people see a little better or interpret the snow a little better?
Like wear the high-vis vests?
could wear, yeah. So you can go back to high-vis vests or blinking lights or all sorts of things. One of the things I've noticed is that lots of people wear the wrong goggle at night. So if you need to buy goggles, always try and buy goggles that have two lenses. So you'll have a very clear lens, like an orange lens or a yellow lens, which is amazing for night, or where your mirrored lens is going to be much better in the day. There are a lot of extra goggles in the yurt as well, should you end up with a student that just doesn't have the right type of eyewear for the lighting condition that night. Good stuff. All right, let's, how are we doing here? Well, we're gonna go really fast now because I wanna go have a little break before we dive into the next one. So we are gonna look as fast as possible. Here it is, the quiz. Da-da-da. We have 6 steps to our CADS progression that we've already seen the slide tonight. 5 of them were covered in your CSI overview. Can anybody put down 1 in the chat, and we'll just see if we get all 6 in the next few seconds here. Just name 1. If you got 1, chuck it down. Equipment, yeah, mobility was the next one. What do we have after mobility? We've got gliding, yeah, so gliding to a natural stop, perfect. Then after we do glide to a stop, we do individual turns. Then we have, after 1 turn, then we link the turns, yep, and then in honor of my friend Paul Klaproth, we just say to infinity and beyond. Step 6 is just everything else that allows you to explore around the mountain. Cool. What about, so there, they all there, if you didn't know or like to see a quick picture of it. What about our 5 skills? So there are 5 skills that we help people develop. Let's just fire them in there as fast as you can. Just 1, you don't have to put all 5, and I'm sure we'll hit all 5 in a few seconds here. Edging is 1, yep. Stance and balance. Pivoting. We got 2 left. What are the last 2? Timing, pressure, yes, pressure and timing coordination. We're done. You're good. That's the, so this is the order that we teach stuff. These are the skills that we teach in each of those steps. And then there's a way that we assess our students. And this is the big wordy ones called the technical references for skiing. There's 4 of them. And you probably, well, we definitely saw them in the overview when we did the Zoom. You probably talked about them when you were on the mountain. If you can remember any parts of any of them, throw one down in the chat and we'll knock these off. Turn is led with the lower body. Nice, Nina and April, all over that one. Which has to do with stance and balance, which was James was saying. Good, so that's the first one. No, that's right. Stance and balance has, sorry, James, there's a bit better words around the stance and balance. It says the use of all joints to stay balanced over your skis or to manage the forces of your skis. Then we have upper lower body separation, allows for a word that starts with A. Angulation, oh, nice, and it leads to grip. Sophie, crushing it, nice. Yeah, so the more we can get our body to separate, so that differential between our hips and our lower limb, then that allows us to separate or kind of break at that hip area. And when we do that, then we can get the skis way up on edge, which then gives us wicked, wicked grip. And then the last one, which we probably didn't say all the fancy words to before, so I'll just throw it on the screen. Coordinated movement patterns direct the forces acting on the skis and the momentum of the skier from turn to turn. If you were a snowboarder, you would just say the word flow. Yeah, we want things to look equal and opposite and that everything follows in the right order. So those are the technical references. You won't play with this last one a lot over this weekend. You'll play with these first 3 though. And it's just a really easy way for us to look at skiers and figure out what's going on. So, and 2 more slides and then we get a little break. Some resources. So I know now you all know where your CADS manual is. Do open it. If you have a chance to even spend 15 minutes tonight, look at any section that talks about AOT, just so you can get a sense about maybe some of the questions that people are asking or some of the physical tests. Particularly the sit-ski AOT is really in depth if you want to kind of look at something. Then there are CSI manuals that you can get a hold of. There are CSI YouTube channels. All other instructors are great source of reference. Even just this weekend, you're going to learn from each other as well as from your course conductor. And then, yeah, websites, magazines, newsletters, everything. I have recently become quite addicted to TikTok. Always just looking for new ski and snowboard drills. It's shocking how much stuff is on there. as well as really good cooking recipes if you like to cook. So lots of resources. A couple things for the rest of the weekend. Tomorrow morning and for the next 2 days, we're going to be meeting at Starbucks at 7:30 in the morning. We do that so that we can get up before any of the lineups form. It is going to be a busy weekend up there. It is the first weekend of spring break for most schools. So there'll be lots of people up there just enjoying all of the winter activities outside of skiing. Shockingly, the mountain probably won't feel very busy when we're skiing around it tomorrow, despite the fact that there will be tons and tons of people around the tram area and the pond and seeing Santa and those types of things. We will be done by 4-ish every day. Please do dress warmer, at least one level warmer than you think, because you end up standing around quite a bit and discovering things. So put on that extra pair of woolies or an extra vest or whatever it is. I would be my recommendation to bring a lunch. Our lunches are pretty tight on our time schedule. I think we try and hold them to 45 minutes. So if you have a lunch with you, then you don't have to try and run down to the cafeteria or worry about how busy it is in there. Please try and be early for all of your sessions. So if your leader says, hey, we're starting back at this time, try and be there like 5 minutes early so that we're just ready to start it right when we can. We do run very tight timelines this weekend to give every opportunity for everybody to learn as much as they can. But we need to start when we need to start. I already talked about just getting involved as much as you can. Put your hand up, jump into the conversation, try stuff, just send it. The more you play, my experience has been, the more you will learn and the more you will recall stuff. And then do a little bit of prep. So tomorrow night, you'll get to see your schedule. It's okay to come in a little bit flat tomorrow because it doesn't really matter. We're going to feed you a lot of the information tomorrow. But if your conductor says, hey, get into this part of the manual tomorrow night, spend the time to be ready for Sunday so that you can really dominate that grid and we can just get you through the program. Any questions about stuff happening this weekend? Oh, it's good. It's quiet. I love it. I
do have a question.
Yeah, what's the question?
Sorry, I haven't been up to Grouse yet because I couldn't make it up there to pick up my pass. Is that going to be an issue tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an issue, but I have passes for tomorrow.
Okay.
So I've got a bunch of day tickets. So if anybody didn't get their pass, and then at the end of the day, you can hang out at the guest services and grab your pass for Sunday. Good question.
Thanks.
I got your back. I got your back. And actually, if we get there, apparently they're opening at 7:30. So if there's nobody there, you might have an opportunity just to run in and grab it first before you're going to have to wait. So good. What time? Sorry, what time tomorrow? 7:30 a.m. at Starbucks. Starbucks will be open. So if you want to grab a coffee like I normally do, yeah. I can tell you too that our opening session is going to be indoors. So like the first 45 minutes will be inside at the yurt, playing with sit skis and taking them apart and messing around with it. So you don't even have to come super dressed warm. If you want to carry your boots up and just wear like regular boots or something, there'll be an opportunity to jump in your boots afterwards. Entirely up to you. If you want to come ready to go, you can do that too. There is storage at the yurt. So anybody wants to leave a bag there all day, not a problem. We got lots of room. If there are no more questions, let's just take like a 15-minute break. Let's swing back at 7:45 and we will dive into the next section. And I am going to do my darnest to be done us all by 9 o'clock tonight. I thanks everybody so far. If anybody wants to talk to me about anything otherwise, feel free to call me or whatever. And we'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
What's that?
But I don't know, maybe. Remember when we were watching TV? It might be because it's competing with the, is that both through the Netflix now?
No.
No.
That was just somebody take. We're gonna turn it off. If you like that.
No, cable, if you're using the internet, and that would be.
Yeah.
It's fine. Hopefully that helps. This is door shut too?
No.
This, oh, should just go around, right?
I don't know.
Could be, okay. Let's see how many bars I have. Yeah, I have full bars. I have full bars.
So is that good?
Yeah, I need stronger internet connection.
Okay, maybe it's a. They weren't, they haven't been in there before.
Oh, really?
Well, no, I was getting close away to the forest or Ukraine. But it was right ones.
Okay.
An hour, 15 minutes. Right. So you do you. I'll try and be quiet. All right, as we're getting back, you will benefit from having a shoe with laces in this next section. If you have one accessible, I would go grab it really quickly. And we'll get started here in about a minute. If you're just coming back, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. But if you have access to grab a shoe that has tying laces, that would be a benefit in this next little section. You can participate in the game. All right, hopefully everybody is back. Let's get rolling again so that we can try and hold to our timelines. I did just put a link in the chat there. If anybody learns really well from taking notes or having extra notes or review, there is a resource there that's available on the CADS website. That link there will pull up a PDF that you can then just save to your computer, and then you can make some notes, either print it and make notes on it, or just make notes on it directly in a PDF editor, or even just a reader. Usually there's some way to put some notes on there. So with that being said, let's get rolling on level 1, ASDCI, teaching people with cognitive impairments and autism spectrum disorder. We actually partnered, I should say, CADS partnered with CAN, Canuck Autism Network, about 7 years ago to create a lot of this content. And VASS actually partnered with CAN before that, which is really cool. So we actually started working with them the year before that. And that is where that Tuesday night ASD program originated from. It was a cooperative effort with CAN, and we used all of their instructors for a season. And then the following season, we got them to create content so that we could just run it independently. On we go, though. I did the link for the workbook. Things we're going to cover: understanding cognitive impairment or ASD, teaching strategies to help fill your toolbox. You'll hear a lot about your toolbox. We're going to try and just give you tons of strategies this weekend so that as you come across different students, then you'll have lots of good ideas on how to help them. We're going to look at assessment of abilities, communication, behavior, motivation, and then we're going to finish off looking with some kinesthetic teaching tools that you're going to get to play with this weekend. If we look at this first slide, just trying to define. Oh, see, and this is why I need you all. I'm not sharing my screen. That makes it much more tricky, doesn't it? I thank you. Please let me hit a button. That probably makes it a whole lot easier for you to understand what in the world I'm talking about. I will tell you too, if you are, actually, you know what? I should turn back on the recording too, because I stopped that. Let's do that. Apparently the recording's still going. Good. All right. So we'll go back to the title page just so it looks really fancy for a second. But yeah, that's our title page. Couple things we're going to cover really quickly. And as we go through this, you'll see these little icons in the bottom of some of the pages. This actually refers to the page in that notebook that you can get in the link in the chat if you would like. And that'll just tell you exactly where to go for what we're talking about. So if anybody wants to just take off their microphone or put on their microphone so we can hear you. Does anybody know what some cognitive impairments are? Like, what are the diagnoses called? Does anybody know any? We know ASD. We already talked about ASD. Anything else?
ADHD.
ADHD. Attention. No. What is it? ADHD. Attention deficit hyper disorder. Has a bunch of hyperactivity attached to it.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. The one that goes usually along with it, ADD. Attention deficit disorder, which I'm pretty sure I have, especially for work assignments that I'm not super excited about doing. Anybody know any others?
Traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah, traumatic or non-traumatic brain injuries, both can fall in there. Yeah, for sure, brain injury in general. There's also some Down syndrome. You guys have heard of that. Fragile X. What else hiding in there? Different learning disabilities we can look at. It gives us a good spectrum. Does anybody know any of the characteristics of some of these conditions? Or even thinking about that last question, like how is it going to affect what we try and do when we're teaching people a snow sport?
Maybe more repetition.
May need a whole bunch more repetition. Sure, yeah. And yeah, I love that you say may, because you're right. It is a may. Might not. Some chat may affect their speech patterns. Yep. May have attention issues. Totally. Impulsivity. Wow, I can't even say that. Impulsivity. Wow, that's a good one. We'll have to try that a bunch later. Comprehension may need to break things down a little bit easier or chunk up the information. Complex instructions may be hard to understand. Absolutely. It hasn't come up yet. I'm sure someone will get there, but there might be some behavior stuff that's just not typical. People wanting to speak in really, loud tones or be violent can all be part of it. You might have students that run away, literally, physically just run away from you, which is really terrifying on a mountain. Mm-hmm. I once had a student that thought it would be really funny to play hide and seek in the woods in the middle of a snowy day. They got me because they were going up a carpet and there was a little forest next to it. And they asked if they could go in front of me. And I'm like, wow, cool. They're being so independent. They want to go on the carpet and I'll just hold back here 20 feet. He got to the top of the rung, kicked off his skis and ran into the forest. It only took myself and 6 patrollers 2.5 hours to find him because he was determined to win the game. We knew roughly where he was. He was safe, but we certainly couldn't see him and it was very deep snow. So yeah, so I think that's nobody else said anything else. Good. Yeah, so you got a good sense there's just going to be some conditions that are not the way that a typical ski school would probably be able to accommodate. So that's where we come in. Some of the other things that might be there, agility may be a challenge, fatigue, muscle tone, coordination, communication, and then just the way understanding and processing, which I think came up. Awesome. Looking at a couple of specific diagnoses, we can look at something called Down syndrome, or more accurately called trisomy 21. And again, I don't know all this stuff. Like I don't memorize all this stuff. I just look it up when I need it. But here are kind of the bullet points. And there's a little red flag. Someone remind me about the little red flag if I forget to say anything. But some of the challenges we might have, endurance may be a challenge, adaptive behaviors, poor motor coordination, low muscle tone, or loose joints where like just seems like they just can bend almost a little bit backwards. Some of the joints, which can be a little bit terrifying when you're in ski boots. May have cardiac, respiratory, digestive, vision, or hearing impairments, and then have this thing called atlantoaxial instability, which is why this little red flag is here. And I don't know if you remember the grid. At the very bottom of that safety part, there was something called the critical points of AOT. So this is one of the critical points that you need to know in your cognitive module. If you say this, you get free bonus points. Does anybody know what in the world that is?
Sure.
Yeah, who knows?
Some people with Down syndrome have an instability in their second, I think, vertebrae of the thoracic vertebrae, and that's extremely important. And we would not be able to teach somebody with that because they would be unsafe in a fall. But that will generally have been discovered. We should be in any notes that we have because we screen for that. If we know someone has Down syndrome, they need a medical to tell us they do not have that condition, or they can't ski with us.
Richard, you said it like almost word for word. Yeah, it's the first and second vertebrae way up here, and they become unstable to a point where if you were to hit your head, you could seriously damage or sever your spinal cord. So it is massively important that we know about it. Anybody that has Down syndrome, or if you have a student with Down syndrome, please look into their medical records and specifically ask the student and the parent this question if they have been cleared to participate in the lesson today. And if they don't know, then they just can't come at the moment. We'll have to get them cleared and then they can come back. But in our system, all of that gets cleared before anybody arrives. So it's very cool. Awesome. Some of the, another diagnosis you might see, Fragile X syndrome, or what is called FXS. Some of the things that you might see in the student may have low muscle tone, poor motor coordination, stereotypical moves. Does anybody know what stereotyped moves are?
Movements that are where there's a lot of repetition, like arm flapping or rocking back and forth. Those are stereotyped movements.
Awesome, thank you. If anybody didn't know what that was, does anybody know how they could find out? Little fancy pocket computers that we carry. They might have tremors, they might have some hyperactivity, maybe some memory challenges, maybe social and communication skills. Very similar, it represents quite similar to autism spectrum disorder. So I can tell you a story that is actually a personal story to me. My older cousin on my mom's side, I'm sure he's not really my cousin. I'm not sure how all the cousins twice and 3 times removed actually works. But I always called him my cousin. And when he was about 48 years old, he had never skied with his family ever. And his family were serious skiers. They actually owned property on a mountain so they could go skiing every weekend. And my cousin wasn't able to go skiing. So finally, this device came around called a Mountain Man, which was a sit ski that had almost what looks like training wheels on it, little tiny pontoon skis that come out from the side. And with that device and some very skilled instructors, he, for the first time ever, was actually able to go skiing with his family because he could get in that and he had enough ability to move from side to side and actually ski it down the mountain. And we taught, this family was taught how to use the tethers from behind to control the speed. And finally, at the age of 48, he got to go and ski with his family, which is very cool. And those are the stories that I love that we get to be a part of, where we get to bring families and friends together and do things that people just didn't even think were possible anymore. The coolest thing about my cousin is that he speaks 4 languages and was translating for all sorts of courtrooms, but he couldn't ski with his family. So super brilliant man, had a lot of behaviors that you wouldn't think, would lead to somebody being super intelligent, and man, were you wrong when you talk to him. So anyways, let's keep rolling. Some other stuff, learning disabilities. And there's a whole bunch of different learning disabilities. We can chat about some of them in a second, but they may affect the way that you acquire information, the way you organize information or hold information in your brain, the ability to retain information, and then understand or use both verbal and nonverbal information. Does anybody know any specific learning disabilities or what they're called and what they do? Either in the chat or just take off and speak. I'm easy. Dyslexia. What's dyslexia? And dyscalculia. You got a couple.
Dyslexia is a learning disability around reading.
Around reading,
Dyscalculia is around math.
Yeah, it's numbers specifically. Yeah. So I actually have dyscalculia. I flip numbers like all the time, and I don't even recognize it. They look the right way to me. So can be dangerous if you're in the banking industry for sure. Some other stuff that might be in there: dysgraphia, which is a really difficult time writing or printing. Dyspraxia. Does anybody know what that one is? It's a challenge using like your fine motor skills. And dysphagia can be a challenge learning languages. Auditory processing disorder, difficult hearing different sounds. And then visual processing disorders, difficulty interpreting different visual information. So whole section of them, yeah, they can be quite serious and really, I think really discouraging for a lot of people when they don't understand why they can't learn things. So once we understand what's going on, we can always help people learn in different manners, which is awesome. Let's talk a little about brain injuries. So I alluded earlier, there's TBIs and NTBIs, or traumatic and non-traumatic brain injuries. If we were to play a game, let's look at all of this list, and we'll start at the top. And in the chat, you can either type TBI if you think it's traumatic, or NTBI if you think it is not traumatic. What do you think a stroke is? Traumatic or not traumatic?
Traumatic?
It's actually not traumatic, yeah. Which sounds funny because it comes on pretty quick, but yeah. What about a blasting injury? Say someone was, near a mining accident or something, would be traumatic. Yep. What about different types of illness? Different types of illness are usually going to be non-traumatic, the things that are going to come on slowly. What about brain tumors? I see lots of NTBI still. Awesome. How about violence? Well, there's a good one. Yeah, so violence can actually be both. And I only say that because you're right, with enough violence at one time, it can totally be traumatic. But we're also seeing now a number of athletes, especially from American football, where they had, really small instances of violence their whole life, or small concussions, as it actually turns out to be. And now over time, it has become a huge, huge challenge. Meningitis, anybody know traumatic, not traumatic?
It's not traumatic. Going back to violence.
Yep.
That's still caused by trauma. It's caused by many concussion. Lots of subconcussive injuries, which hockey players will get. So you don't have concussion symptoms, don't even know anything. It's getting hit a lot. That's why boxers were the first ones to have it, are to be noticed with it. Soccer players as well. If you're going to be hitting the ball a lot, especially for young people, you can end up having problems later, even though you never had a stoppage during the game.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree. What about car accident? Do you think that's probably going to be traumatic or not traumatic? Lots of TBIs. Yep, I would agree with you. And then concussions. Concussions can, again, both be, TBI and non-TBI, depending on how they kind of mount up in your life. Cool. So some of the things with brain injuries, physically, you might notice that there's challenge with balance, agility, coordination, reaction time, fatigue, and focal paralysis. Sensory, they may have some vision challenge. Cognitively, they may have learning challenges or memory challenges. And then psychologically, there can be mood disorders and impulsivity, which I don't know how I've had to say that word twice now today, but thank you. I can actually share a really quick story too. We had a woman that was in a car accident. I met her, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago. And through her accident, she became, she just gets super dizzy when she looks at anything that is moving with any sort of motion to it. So if she looked like just straight ahead, it was not bad, but if anything was moving beside her, then she would just start to get really dizzy and then often just fall to the ground. Despite being a great skier her whole life, this was a huge, huge problem. So my questions for you are, she came to us for a ski lesson to see if we could help her. Any idea on what you think we did to help this woman learn how to ski again? Or how to help her manage this oversensory of motion? Close her eyes. Sophia, you're like on fire tonight. That's totally what we did. We just had her close her eyes. And then we taught her how to ski like a visually impaired person. And we taught her husband how to guide her around the mountain. And then they went on and skied for the next couple of years until her brain started to get used to things again. And then she didn't need it anymore. But yeah, it was a wonderful solution. And amazing how, yeah, the brain will do what it does. And the brain also has an amazing way to heal. So let's keep going on. With all of our learners that kind of have some sort of cognitive impairment, these are all really good strategies to build what ends up being a really positive relationship. And that's really our goal, is to make people feel like we're on their side and we're here to get them to their goals. So some of the strategies, literally just clear and simple instructions, which I alluded to earlier, and we're going to play with in a couple minutes. You don't have to blab on lots and lots. We are, as humans, we like to talk. I don't know why. But if you're going to try and describe something, we need to be really concise in what we do and just say the important stuff, so that if somebody is having a hard time using their brain to interpret that information, there's as little garbage as there can be. Some students are just going to need time. I've worked with some students where you will say something and literally you need to wait like 10 seconds before they figure out what it is you just said and then react to what is happening. So always be prepared to give people space and time. We talked about AOT. AOT is an ongoing process. I'm always observing what's going on. And as I observe different things, then I will find ways to test them. So if I notice that my student is taking a long time to receive information, then I'm just going to create a situation, keep creating situations where they have the time they need to process. Teach in a much more doer-feeler based. So do a lot less explaining and do a lot less of trying to get them to watch things. Just get out there and do it and keep referring back to parts of their body that they can focus on to know that they're doing it well. And then celebrate often with positive feedback. And I think this is easier with kids and sometimes a little more tricky with adults. With kids, it's really easy. You just go, dude, high five, that was amazing. And they give you a high five and we celebrate, life is good. My experience so far is with a lot of adults, especially if they have a newly acquired injury or a brain injury, they just want people to be honest with them. So when they're doing well, say, hey, that was great. That was perfect. I like the way you did this, and be specific about it. And when they're not, just let them not be good at it. It's okay. You don't have to say anything. They know they're not doing well at it. If there's a whole bunch of failure, then maybe we need to find a way to explain it better, teach it better, do something so that they don't have as many negative experiences, but they know that there's going to be a bit of struggle. It's okay. Just celebrate when it's honest. And also I would ask them straight out how they want us to celebrate. It's a weird question when you're talking to somebody you don't know that well. I'm like, hey, if you do well today, how can I recognize that? So that would be a really interesting question, perhaps in your AOT section when you are working through that module this weekend. Yeah, we'll do that part. All right. So let's dive a little bit into ASD, or autism spectrum disorder. There's a very popular expression that says if you've met one person with autism, you've met exactly one person with autism, because the spectrum is so wide and the characteristics that can come out in people are so vast, you seldom have any two people that are identical. So quick stats, and these are a little bit out of date. These are from a few years ago, but it was about 1 in 59 children or 1 in 60 children were diagnosed with ASD. And it occurs more often in boys, about 1 in 42 boys and 1 in about 190 girls. This is one of my favorite slides. I must tell you, when I started working in this industry, I've been in it for 18 years now, and there was no training at the time for anything cognitive. We did lots of good things for physical disabilities, and at the time, CADS just didn't even know how to start to process or help us teach what was going on. So I'd show up for lessons, and sometimes I would have kids that just seemed like really badly behaved kids. And I would get confused and frustrated why their parents let them get away with this stuff. And then one day I saw this slide and everything made more sense to me, because you can actually see, they can do tests that when people are going through different experiences and they have ASD, that different parts of their brains are firing in a way that they probably don't for typical people. So anybody good with words? What is this one called? The
Amygdala.
Thank you, amygdala. Yeah. So this little part of the brain affects your emotions and aggressive behavior. Prefrontal cortex can be attention, planning, abstract thinking, and social behavior. The temporal lobe, over on this side here, affects your language and social perceptions. And then the cerebellum can be attention and all of your motor skills. So all of these things together may be things that are going to be a challenge for students with ASD, but it's not all of them often. It is any combination of them and can come in any sequence of things and are not even always there, which is even more fun. One day you'll have a student who just doesn't seem to pay attention, and the next day they're hyper-focused. It can be all over the place and a wonderful, incredible, fun challenge. We are going to look at another quick little video. And if I do this really well, we are going to try and look at some of the strengths, some of the challenges, and some of the tactics. So some of the strengths of the character, whose name is Julia, some of the challenges she has, and then some of the tactics. So to make this work, if you have a first name that starts in the alphabet up to the letter J, let's have you all look at what are some of the strengths of Julia. People that have a first name that starts with K through R, let's say that you're going to look for any of the challenges that Julia experiences. And then for our S to the end of the alphabet, look for some of the tactics that some of the other characters are using in this video. So I'll pop up the link again for you. And what I'll ask you to do is we'll play it from the beginning. It's long, but at 6 minutes and 45 seconds, if you can stop and come back to me, then we'll debrief those questions and see how we did. So let me just chuck this in here. Hopefully everybody can see that link. I will turn off my volume and we will see you in a few minutes. All right, hopefully people are coming back. We'll just give people another 30 seconds and then we'll. So if we go back to our questions, hopefully everybody's back now. If you're not, I'm sure you'll catch us in a second. Our first group, and I don't fully remember what the splits were, like to I or J or something. What are some of Julia's strengths? If you just want to fire them into the text, we can look at a couple really quickly. What are things that Julia just seemed to do amazingly well? Art, for sure. Creative, focus, yeah. She knows what she needs for herself. Absolutely. James, really strong focus. Great concentration, painting, being aware of what she likes. She loves playing with her friends. She's caring. She's able to calm down with redirection. Being funny by doing things differently. Yeah. Takes interest in people she's familiar with. Love it. She can manage with breathing techniques. All super great things. Beautiful. So our second group of people that we're looking for some of the challenges in Julia's world. What were some of the challenges, if you want to fire those into the text box as well? Loud noises, yeah. Sensitive ears, for sure. New people could be a challenge. Difficult being understood socially, yep. Some tactile challenges, yeah. Didn't like the paint on her fingers. Wasn't always great at multitasking, was good at a singular task. Doesn't like big yellow birds. I'm surprised nobody put that. Limited spoken language, yeah. So her language, it's hard to understand because she may have a very big vocabulary, but she only speaks in little short, sort of chunky sentences. Good. Anything else in there that we should take some time to respond? Good. I love that you saw that. Sweet. So for our last group, what are some of the tactics that Julia's kind of teacher friends were able to use to support Julia? This is our last group, the R's and on. Normalizing differences, adapting activities, might do things differently, seeking to understand, love it. Aware of sensory overload, yeah, big one. Had some good grounding sensory exercises. Try not to overwhelm her, speak in short sentences. Yeah, so this speaking in short sentences, I love. So this is something called mirroring. If somebody speaks to you in a certain way, try speaking to them back in a similar way. If they don't like it, they'll usually let you know. But for most of us, it is a really nice way to communicate. Like anybody that speaks fast with me, I'm like, oh, I like this person instantly because they speak super fast. Waiting for her responses, yeah. Calming down, coming down to her level. Yeah, I love that. So we saw adults getting down to Julia's eye level so that they could speak more like people instead of speaking above somebody. Take breaks, distract when upset, trying to help her refocus. Deep breath exercise, yeah. Patient when waiting for a response. Thank you, Sydney. Having options to remove herself from sensory stimuli. Yeah. I don't know if I saw it in there, but they also had, maybe it wasn't there and I didn't see it, but they had just some different plans for her right off the bat. Like they knew that she didn't like to get her hands kind of sticky. So they just had paintbrushes and things ready so that, she could still participate in all the activities and just do it the way that worked well for her. So awesome. Good little video. Thumbs up, not bad. I love that Sesame Street jumped onto this and just make it a pretty typical thing, and that it's not a big deal. I think most kids now in school have usually a student or two that is on the spectrum. So it needs to be very normalized, and yeah, it doesn't need to be a big deal. There's just some differences. Let us keep moving on. Oh, there's one more here. Making sure Fluster is always there. Yeah, so Fluster was a support doll. And absolutely, if Fluster could be around, that was a good way to refocus Julia. Let's look at what this all kind of boils down to in some of the characteristics you might see with ASD. Socially, You may have little or no eye contact, struggle with. Is anybody good with words? What is this word? What does it mean? Anybody want to venture how to say it?
Perspective taking, so the ability to take someone else's point of view.
Cool. Yeah, so they might just not even be able to understand how something else would affect anybody in any sort of way. Awesome. When we look at communication, there may be repetitive language, back and forth conversation, or total non-verbal communication. Actually, I'll tell you a really quick story about an amazing woman now that I know, who was a teenager when I first met her. And she was totally nonverbal and just looked like she was always pouting and grumpy. And finally she got to come have a lesson with me, and I just wouldn't accept it. I just like, well, that's fine. Let's just go do this anyways. And it turns out that she was wickedly smart, but never really understood how to talk to people. So I just talked to her like a human being and ignored some of her negative behavior, and just didn't think of it as negative behavior. She was just trying to communicate something to me, and this is the only way she knew how. And when I started to really observe, when I saw that, then we formed a communication, which was really cool. And nobody had really ever taken the time to try and teach her how to ski. They did this thing called tethering that we'll show you later. But basically, they would just put her on the mountain, put these straps around her feet or her waist, and they would slide down and they would do everything for her and not ask her to do anything. So finally, she and I met, and I felt like I had an idea what was going on, even though I was just making it up as I was going along. But we got her to make a turn around a cone because she could see that, and it was super simple. So then I put out another cone and she just turned around that one. And within about an hour, we were just skiing cones and she was just skiing them. I didn't have to do anything. And I think what had happened is that she had been watching everybody else skiing while they were just kind of like having her on the hill and just kind of wasting the days. She was looking at the skis, and she had a really wicked mathematical brain and was figuring out how the skis would get up on edge and they would turn. And she knew how to do this all, even though she'd never done it. So we skied the cones for about an hour. And then the next time I had another instructor with me. I said, cool, why don't you go first through the cones, and we'll just see if she'll keep following you once we finish the cones. And the student did. So I just said, well, don't stop. And we were in the middle of the mountain at Whistler in the learning area. And then we just skied all the way to the bottom. And it was significantly steeper at that point, but she didn't care. She just skied. So we called her dad and said, hey, there's this thing going on. You should come have lunch with us. And we went to the top of the mountain and said, hey, why don't you just ski? I know we've never been on this run, but it's fine. Why don't you just ski in front, and we'll get your daughter to follow you, and we'll come behind in case there's anything wrong. And we never saw her again because she just skied with her family now. And last time I saw her, now she's in her mid-20s, and they only like skiing black diamonds now. She really likes moguls, it turns out. So they go ski moguls all the time. And they're even at a point now where she will take the lead as long as they follow pretty close. She definitely wants to do it as a group because that's the part that she really values. So anyways, let's get on more with some stuff. So that's some communication stuff. We also might see this word called perseveration. Does anybody know what perseveration is? If you don't, it's okay. It's where you get like just stuck and super hyper focused on a subject. So you might talk about continually the trains that are in London because you know the train map perfectly, and every time you have the opportunity to speak, you're going to revert back to the trains in London. It can be a challenge until you realize that you can just build lessons around the train map in London, and then you can have the best day ever. There may be great dependence on routines. There might be difficult with transitions. This sometimes will get us a little bit stuck on the mountain, especially if conditions are changing and we want to move to a different part of the mountain, or it gets significantly busier and we need to make strategies to make it safer. Sometimes transitions can be very tricky. My best advice is don't get in routines. Despite the fact that some kiddos might like routines, the routine for putting on your ski boots and getting in your skis is one good routine, but having to do like the same run 4 times every day before you do anything else can be a very sticky routine. So when we're out moving around, I try and keep things very fluid. Even if we're going to go down the same run, this time we'll go down the right side, next time we'll go down the left side. Next time we'll stop at this point and just have a little 30-second break. And I just keep mixing it up so they don't get stuck in a movement routine. There may be some sensory sensitivity to hyperreactivity or hypo-reactivity. So greater than or less than expectation. I was once on a snowboard lesson with a young man who had hyporeactivity. He fell on his wrist. I said, "Hey, are you okay?" He looked at me and said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And, and everything, and no tears, no nothing. Things were great. We skied the rest of the morning. We went in for lunch and he took off his glove and it was not all right. He had broken his arm and it was visibly that it was broken and he just felt no pain there. So all sorts of fun things to be aware of. But hypo, if you're aware of this and there's any injuries, definitely take some extra time to investigate what's going on. Other things that we might see that you might not even think about in your ski lesson, but there could be some sleep challenges, some gastro challenges, eating and diet might be off. There might be motor skill, anxiety, and then focus and attention. This is a really tricky one for a lot of parents. The whole diet and eating, I think with all kids, it's just tough. But especially with kiddos with ASD, there's some good studies out right now that are suggesting a high plant-based diet, shockingly, is really good for your brain development and can help overcome a lot of other parts of the diagnosis. There's also this other side of ASD, which I like to call sort of like the superpowers of ASD. And there's a list of things there that you can take a look at where they find that people that have the diagnosis or maybe haven't actually been diagnosed, but probably would be, may have exceptional memory, music, drawing, reading, computer skills, and then ability to play some sports and have incredibly good reasoning skills. They now look back through history and they estimate that some of the greatest sort of thinkers of our time probably were on the ASD spectrum, but we just didn't know what it was back then. So people like Einstein, if you've ever done any reading about Einstein, he was a social disaster. Like he was horrible to people, not that he was mean, he just didn't know how to interact with people. But because he then wasn't using all this time to try and work in society or work within the confines of society, he was able to give so much of his brain power to some of the greatest discoveries that we have. So lots of the big composers, Bach and Mozart, they think would have been on the spectrum. It's kind of interesting. I always like to think that if you can help somebody figure out what their sort of superpower is, that might be a career for them because they'll be able to excel at a rate that other people can't. When we really look at the diagnosis of it, what it really comes down to is that these four things have to be present. So there has to be some social communication and social interaction challenges. There has to be some repetitive behaviors, either in interest or activities. There has to be, the symptoms are going to be present in early childhood, so before the age of 2. And symptoms together will limit or impair your daily function. So when these are all present, then that's when you actually get the diagnosis of ASD. And this is a big one that it has been with you for your whole life. So there are now, I hear it all the time, you see stories about somebody that just got diagnosed and they're like in their 40s. And all of a sudden they get this diagnosis and they're like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense. And then we can help people learn a little bit differently and manage with a lot of things that they've been struggling with for a long time. We're going to look at another little quick video. And this one really is quick. I think it's like 90 seconds or something. But this is a very cool young man named Stephen Wiltshire. And what I'd like you to do, thinking about our AOT, so our Ask, Observe, and Test. I would like you to watch this video and observe what's going on, and then think about if there's a question that you might ask him that could help you build a really cool first day of ski lesson for Stephen. So I'll turn off my microphone again, watch this, and we'll see you back in about 2 minutes. Try to come up with a good question that you would ask him based on what you're observing. Just give it another few seconds for people to come back. So what are some things that you might ask Stephen, or maybe some adaptations you might think about for his lesson? Or yeah, what are your ideas? What do you got? You can either just talk out or you can throw it in the text, whatever you like.
You could ask him what kind of music he likes. He talked about music a lot. You can use that for the pacing and everything across the hill.
Love it. Yeah, for sure. You could totally get some good music going while you're teaching, and yeah, help with doing things in a rhythmical way. I love that. That's great.
Maybe we could walk him around first, so he would be familiar with the area.
Great idea. Yeah, clearly he likes to see space and he memorizes space really well. So yeah, giving him a walk around the top of Grouse or something. I mean, he'd probably see the city and want to sit there for 5 minutes and just kind of take in the whole city. But yeah, absolutely. Someone says he has an amazing memory, so show him a picture of action terrain.
I would ask him
beforehand.
what part.
Sorry?
I was going to ask him if he was going to draw a mountain, which part would he draw first?
Love it.
So like what part interested in?
Yeah, what type of a learner do you think he is? Do you think he's a thinker, watcher, doer, or feeler?
Watcher.
Sorry,
like a watcher, observer?
Yeah, probably loves to see great demonstrations, pictures of stuff, videos of, yeah, absolutely. Really cool. I might also give him a map of the mountain. He might think that is fun. Who knows? I think it would be a lot of fun to hang out with. What about the way he speaks? Would you make any adaptations in the way that you speak, or thoughts around that?
Since he picks up voice cadence, you could vary your speech pattern, so it'd be more interesting to listen to you than, talking in a standard tone.
Love it. Cool.
You could ask him to do different accents.
That could be fun in itself.
Yeah.
Go right. No, go right. Go right, mate. Yeah. Awesome. So funny, we saw Stephen for 90 seconds and we start to get all these ideas about how we can help him. And it's great. I love that. Anytime I can sort of customize, or at least have some ideas in the back of my head, how I can make it better if my real typical kind of stock lesson isn't going as well as it could be. So let's just to go back to AOT a little bit, because I don't know if we quite got into all this, but all the things that I do as far as observing and test often have to do with understanding diagnosis more, or understanding their mobility, strength, and balance. Those words will come up specifically when you talk about sit skiing quite a bit, about figuring out people's mobility, strength, and balance, because it helps us figure out which sit ski might be a good fit for them. So this is a hint. Someone is going to ask you about these 3 specific words and maybe this diagnosis thing in the next couple of days. Just a hint. Up to you if you want to know it. Other things we want to do just when we're in any type of lesson with a student with ASD or cognitive impairment, find ways to connect with your student. I mean, there's a million questions you can ask to find things that either they're interested in and you can be interested in them as well, or if you're adults, to actually find those real commonalities. Go a long way to building connections. Determine your best communication strategies, whether that's speaking quick, slow, long sentences, very complex, not very complex. Try and learn about any triggers that they might have. And we'll talk about this a little more in a second. And then just discover any motivations and support strategies that already they know, so that we can talk into them. Most of these students are going to be in the school system, and they have a bunch of strategies that they already use. So we can use the same strategies and be very successful. Anytime I have the chance to talk to a parent or caregiver of a student with cognitive impairment, these are the 3 big questions that I always want to ask. What is your child like? What should I absolutely avoid? And, are there any support strategies or learning strategies that you could share with me? Funny enough, these questions also come up in their profile on Snowline. So hopefully there's some answers there. But if you always ask these three, you will save yourself a whole lot of stress. So also knowing these will be important this weekend. So don't forget those either. Let's skip that. Let's go down to this. Some basic strategies for communication. Talk less, do more. Use the show and say strategy. So really just showing and saying at the same time. Again, trying to keep the words super, super simple, but with lots of visual demonstration. That'll go a long way. Avoid yes, no questions. This is a trap. If you ask yes, no questions, you will paint yourself into a corner quickly. If you're a parent, you probably already know this. If you give a yes, no question and they give you a no, and all of a sudden you're like, now what? You're much better off to give questions that have multiple answers, that you are happy with all of the answers. That way everybody gets to win. Give time to process for some students, like literally like 5-10 seconds sometimes. Just wait to see if there's any sort of reaction. Don't just assume that they can't hear you or that they are ignoring you. Match the communication styles. We talked a bit about that with mirroring. Just try and, as much as you can, mirror somebody's communication. That can mean, and I do this often, if a kid has a hard time looking at me and just won't look me in the eye, I will intentionally go up to them and not look them in the eye. And because of that, then they're like, oh, cool, this guy's like talking to me like I like to talk. Can work exceptionally well. Getting down to the level, which is something we saw in the video with Julia. Get down on your knees so that you can be the same height. Absolutely. Speak at a volume that is similar. Speak at a cadence that is similar. Speak at as many things as you can duplicate, even down to your physical positioning. If someone's sitting there with their arms crossed and you cross your arms, all of a sudden they think that you're a good person and they'll have a conversation with you. I have even yelled at somebody once because they were yelling at me, and it freaked them out and they stopped. It was wonderful. I didn't yell anything bad. I just yelled back my question. And they were like, what is going on? Why is this person communicating to me like this? It just stopped them so fast. They're like, okay, I'm good. So you can play a little bit and get some fun reactions. And this is also a good strategy in communication. Just ask people to repeat back what you've just tried to explain. So it can be a very quick way just to know if they really understood that maybe you're trying to get them to turn their feet inwards. Good. What did I just explain? I'll turn my feet in. Okay, good. We're like flirting with being over time. I love this activity and I would love to do it if you guys are game. And then I will just go really fast for the last part, I promise. But this is a really interesting exercise in being concise. So here's your challenge. In a moment, I'm going to start my stopwatch and you're going to have 90 seconds to come up with very specific words on how to tie a shoe. The goal is to keep the words in as few as you can, but that will actually allow me to tie my shoe because I have my shoe and I'm going to do exactly what you told me to in a moment. The person that can do this the most effectively with the fewest amount of words is going to get a very stylish VASS toque tomorrow as a prize. So with a little bit of paper, or if you want to use the chat, like just to kind of write your words out, I wouldn't send the chat, but because then other people will see it. But if you want to just type in there, you can. Try and get as few words as you can to describe how to tie a pair of shoes. 90 seconds starting now. Oh, Theo's getting, trying to combine some words. I see how this works. I like it. Only 30 seconds left. 20 seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, who has managed to do this with less than 20 words? Has anybody managed to go less than 20 words? If you have, put your hand up on your reactions. Oh, we've got a couple less than 20. Over, under, pull, loop, over, through. I love the words, Sophie, but I have no idea what that really means. This sounds similar to the way I try and make like a fitted sheet work on a bed. I had double slip.
Having a little dance with it.
April and Amit have got their hands up. Who wants to go first? April, you want to go first? Let me get my shoe. We'll get serious here. April, your microphone is still off, just so you know.
So make an X with the laces.
Okay, somebody, I need a count or two. Can somebody count words? Lenka, do you mind counting for me? So it was make a X with the laces. Is that 6? Make an X with
Okay, I
laces.
can do less. Hold on. I can do less than that. Make X with laces.
Okay. Okay, I'm good with that. I can make that. Yep.
Loop one lace through the other. I can't remember what I wrote.
Loop one lace.
I can't remember what I wrote. It's gone.
Okay, that's okay.
But I can't remember what I wrote. Can you
That's
see
okay.
what I wrote?
Oh, did you put it up here?
Yeah, I did.
You said make and X with laces. Okay, so 5. Wrap lace under the other. Okay, I'm now turning it clockwise around. And make 2 bunny ears. Okay.
No.
And now tie bunny ears together. It's chop. Amit, do you want to have a go? Is yours up here too, or did you just have it down?
Sure. So hold laces, tips down.
Tips down.
Cross laces. Tie knot. Loop one lace over, under.
Tie a knot. Okay, I tied a knot.
Okay, I failed.
Yeah, you didn't fail. This is just tricky. Does anybody have something that is? Oh, there's a new message on the board. What? Jordana. Move strings so one goes under the other. I don't hate that. I'll give you where you're going. Pinch, loop. Pinch, loop together. I'm guessing there at the top, maybe? Pinch the loop. Extra string around, pull strings through where thumb was. Wow! This is tricky. This is tricky. I would like to award, just for sheer bravery, Tukes to Jordana and Amit and April. I thank you for playing. I will tell you the best solution I've ever seen, and I will show you, or I'll try to show you. And again, I don't know the exact words, but someone came down to like 14 or 15. And basically they got us to pinch it here, cross one, fold through the bottom, pull tight, and then they just said repeat. And if you do it, it actually ties your shoelaces. And you can still pull them apart. At any rate, it's just a fun exercise. Figuring out the concise words. This is a really complex one because there's a whole bunch of things to do. But when we're playing on the weekend, really try and get the words you mean. So if it is put your foot on an angle at 45 degrees, then just say that. Whatever you think the concise words are, I will challenge you to keep playing. At any rate, I have 10 minutes to do like a whole bunch of slides. So here we go. Buckle in, couple deep breaths. We're gonna go fast. Here we are. We're gonna look at some behavior and motivation strategies. The first one's called first and then. This is like the bread and butter of all things ASD learning in the school system. They say first, then. In our real world, this happens all the time. I know my wife uses it all the time. She's like, if you first go and clean the garage, there is a cold beer in the fridge. It works really well. You can do it with all sorts of strategies. First, we're going to try and do a task that I want. Then you're going to be rewarded with a task that you want. We can combine those by using something called token boards or countdown strips. Token boards, as simple as they are, they're a laminated piece of plastic that we have tons in the yurt. You just make little check marks for the 5 things you're going to do, and then they get to do whatever the reward is. First, we'll do this 5 times, then we get that. Countdown strip, same way. We have little Velcro stickers behind here, so you can peel these off and you count down. First, we're going to do 5 of these activities, then we're going to do this. Take away 5, take away 4, take away 3, have them pull away the 2. Whatever you have to do to get them committed into that little process of working. A couple other incredibly good strategies. Your phone, so good for a timer. So first we are going to do that, then we get 2 minutes of playing in the snow. When you set that timer, now you're no longer the bad guy, because when it goes beep, 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 the phone said it's time to stop, we need to move on. There's a really good app that I use called Countdown, which is free. And let's see if I have it. It allows you to pick all sorts of different pictures and things, start the timer. It's super visual. It makes a great little sound. And then the picture that is behind, they chose. When the time is up, it rings. And away we go. On to the next activity. Super good one. Make sure that you take breaks to allow students just time to reflect on what's going on. Again, using that first and then, maybe your then is then, yeah, then we're going to take a break doing whatever. And you can let them be really involved in that process, which is nice. Other good strategies, and I alluded to this one a little bit, but the more often we can give people choices versus yes and no questions allows people to feel like they are in control. Do I care whether they want to put on their gloves first or their helmet first? Not at all. We just need to put on our gloves and our helmet. Would you like to put on your gloves or your helmet? Oh, great. Let's do that one. Then we'll do this one. Same thing on the snow. You know, we're going to ski down this run. Would you rather ski down the right side, the left side, or down the middle? Great. We're still all skiing down this run, but giving that almost illusion of choice for a direction you want to go really can build lots of confidence in everybody and keep it super simple. You can also use different pictures that we have, or pictograms. So we have tons of these little cards, and you'll see them over the weekend, where you can get a choices board and put those things on there. So these are the choices. This is what we're going to do the next 20 minutes. What order would you like to do it in? Other things that you might see, something called a visual schedule, where you can, again, we'll have these boards, or we've got a big whiteboard in the yurt, and you can line up a bunch of these little cards, or even just make drawings for it. And it'll just show you exactly kind of what the shape of the day is. When we started this presentation, we had an agenda. That's the same thing. Just giving people exactly the layout of how things are going to work can help lower anxiety and also just keep you on task. So if you get to a certain point in this agenda and all of a sudden they are getting distracted, you're like, oh, let's go back to the agenda. What do we do next? And they tell you, and then you just go do it. There's something called social stories, which can be really powerful. So I'm actually just building a couple right now that were created by CADS, but that they have left it so that we can put real photos in there of the experience and the environment. So we can actually send these to students beforehand, and they can flip through it almost like a bedtime story to see what's going to happen. And then we'll have the same version at our hill. If that's something they've used, then we can just say, open up our phones, slide to that same thing and go, yeah, you've seen this. This is the first thing we're going to do. Let's go. There's the tram. Let's go up there. Oh, let's go to rentals. And away we go. Video modeling is turning out to be one of the fastest way to teach kiddos on the spectrum, by having really good videos of the activity that you're trying to get them to do. Allows them not to have to try and watch you in real space. Real space has got a lot of distractions. If I give you a little phone like this, you can get very locked into it. I know I get locked into mine sometimes. Super powerful tool. And if you're in my group this weekend, you're actually going to help me build this for everybody else. So we are just in the process of building a catalog of videos specifically for this reason, so that we can use it as a teaching tool. Some really simple little cards that we've got in the yurt. We have these ones: stop, go, wait. The stop one, if I am going on a lesson and I don't know the student, I will put it in my pocket instantly before I go, because if I need them to stop, I can just pull out the card in my pocket and say, here, can you hang on to this? It says stop. When you hang on to it, we just stop. Great. When I take it, we go. In a lift line, it can be a little bit of magic when, you know, they just want to shuffle into everybody, which is a very kid thing. It's not a very, you know, it doesn't need to be spectrum specific, but just having that little card can simplify your communication. Other things. Oh, that was it. Good. Those are the strategies we're going to play with. Let's go to this part. So this is our kinesthetic tools, and this is stuff that you're going to get to play with this weekend. So I'm just going to show you a couple of them so they don't look so foreign when you see them. We're going to look at hands-on tethers, tipped connectors, poles, hoops, and then slider bars. I am always very conscious of when we start using these tools, and I try and get people to stop and really think why in the world we're using them. Because if I can just teach a lesson and don't need anything, it's a way better path. If I do need something, I just need to understand specifically why I'm using it and what skill I'm hoping it's going to help develop. So we know our skills: stance and balance, pivoting, edging, pressure control, timing, coordination. If I think that one of these tools that I'm going to show you could help develop that, and I have a plan to use it for a specific amount of time, it's the most powerful thing in the world. But it is for a specific part of time. It is not for all time. This is a teaching tool. So let's look at a few of them. Just by being super hands-on with some of our students can be amazing. Literally, providing you have permission, always ask permission before you put hands on anybody, but holding them for their balance right away, holding their hands so they can get their balance, communicating through hand touching, and we'll go over this, especially in the VI. There are ways that I can manipulate hands so that they kind of mimic what the skis are maybe doing or what someone's foot is doing. Very powerful stuff. Using tethers, which I talked about a little bit earlier, these kind of half-inch webbing that we can use by putting it on the front of a snowboard or on the front of your skis, or maybe around your feet, or maybe around your hips. I can get different body parts to initiate movement, almost like puppeting somebody, so that you can help them feel what they need to as they're starting the turns. Really great for short periods of time. It can't, you know, it's easy to get stuck in this because you can fly around the mountain and have a good time. But if it's not teaching, it's not working. These little tip connectors have been around for a long time in the CSIA. They literally just hold the skis together so that people can make a better wedge, just kind of push out their feet to get the right position. Again, as fast as I can get them off somebody, I will. This is called a 3-person pole. It is, I think, the most magical piece of device that you will ever use, and I can't wait to show it to you. I've had more success teaching people how to ski with this. One instructor on each side, student in the middle, and just by skiing and not even saying anything, people just start to look, they feel the pressures, they start to figure out how the skis work, and in a short period of time, you take the pole away and people can ski. Other things we have, this is called a snow wing, hula hoops. This comes a board buddy. They're devices that allow us to have the student connected to us, but not directly touching us. So the feedback then is less, and they have to count more on their stance and balance, and it develops it really quickly. We do have this thing called a snow slider that we'll take a look at, and a rider bar, which is for snowboarding, similar thing. Somebody can support their whole body weight through their forearms and have the skis working independently underneath them. To be honest, in 18 years, I've never used it for a real student. I have better, faster ways to teach people. And if someone can't support their self by standing, I would usually rather just get them into a sit ski because they can be independent faster and being around the mountain. But if this is what they like, this is their thing, they need to stand up to ski, we have devices that can do it, and we can absolutely teach you how to use it. I've got like 1 minute. We're doing well. Just back to those tools. We shouldn't use those tools as safety devices. So I should never think about, going and putting on a pair of tethers on someone so I could go down something steeper. That's not what it's for. You're not going to learn anything from that. Using that big pole, same thing. Just to get somewhere faster is not a teaching tool. These should be used in really basic, early progression stuff. Yeah, that's all I got to say about this slide. We're good. In the last minute, I'm going to go 1 minute over. What does anybody know? There are 3 questions that we asked that you should ask every caregiver or parent if you have a chance when you're working with a student with cognitive disability. Pop them in the chat. I'm sure we can get them in the next 10 seconds. Things to avoid. Yes. What does your children like? And it's got to be in there, but I don't see it. Stress. Someone I know is going to type it or is typing it right now. What are the strategies for learning your behavior? Awesome. Things just to remember, continually use our AOT, always be observing and testing and asking questions. Make sure you take time to build rapport with all of our students, regardless of who they are. Remember all the tools in your toolbox. There's tons of them. Stay super safe, have lots of fun. And then last, accidentally teach a snow sport lesson if we get to it. I've had some lessons that literally are building snowmen all day, but we got in ski boots. So that was a total winning lesson day. And that's okay. Last thing on, ooh, my screen just went a little funky. When you look at your profile on Snowline, you may not even notice if you go to a part called About Me. There we go. Let me pull it up really quickly just so you can see my profile. So yeah, so if you go to About Me, there is something called My Training. And no, I'm wrong. Where is it? I will find it for you. It's not there. I thought it was there the other day. Good. There is a free e-learning training, and I will find out the link for it. But it's about 9 minutes long. Usually it costs $20 to do it, and it's free right now. So if you want to take that to learn a little bit, some other strategies, you are absolutely welcome to. I will get that, I promise, before the end of the weekend and send it out on an email. This is the thing that we are all going for this weekend. If you are successful, you get a cool little pin. And that's all I got to say. The show's over. 9:02. Not bad. Sophie's got the celebration sign up. Any questions or stuff about that's happening this weekend or questions about the presentation? Perfect. That means everybody's ready for a drink and a bed, and I love it. You're very welcome. For people that are saying thank you. Thank you for giving me 3 hours of your night tonight. I know it's a lot, but it sets you up for a lot of success this weekend. Tomorrow morning, please be there by 7:30. If you haven't been to Gross yet, it is paid parking. You can buy a parking pass for the year that costs $40. Tomorrow morning, you may not have time to do that. So just buy parking for the day, keep your receipt. And then when you go to buy the parking pass, they will reimburse you for the parking that you paid that day. So that is a good thing. $50 now. Thank you, April. I didn't know that. And that's good. I'm happy to pay for the parking when they've given us free passes and all sorts of things. If it's a little revenue that is good for them, I'm in. Other than that, like we talked about, tomorrow, 7:30 outside Starbucks. Do dress warmer than you think. I've heard it might snow tomorrow. Has anybody else heard that? We'll see. Keep that in mind. If you have a bit of a drive, maybe get up a few minutes earlier and just check the weather. And yeah, we'll see you bright and early. I can't wait. We're going to have so much fun.
Thank you,
I bid
James.
you all do. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.